Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Heather and today I thought I'd walk you through all of my unread nonfiction. It is Nonfiction November. I plan on reading a little bit of nonfiction this month, but I also am trying to read more nonfiction year-round as well. But I got this idea from Mercedes at Mercy's Bookish Musings, I'll link her channel down below, where she did the same thing. She walked herself and her audience through all of her unread nonfiction to try and help her determine what she would like to read in Nonfiction November. Now, we're already in November, so that chance for me has come and gone, but I would like to try and figure out what nonfiction I would like to read in the upcoming months. So I thought I'd walk you through it. I have here an entire bin of nonfiction, which I will insert a picture of here because I don't dare lift it up. It's very heavy. So I will start at the top and work my way through to the bottom. So the first book in my pile is my most recent purchase, which is Tomorrow Will Be a Good Day by Captain Tom Moore. I've talked about this loads before, and I think I might read it soonish, actually, because things are not great here in Connecticut at the moment, especially for being a teacher, especially in my district, so I could really use the reassurance that Captain Tom could give me. Captain Tom just turned 100 and in the spring raised millions of pounds for the National Health Service in England to thank them for all of the work that they were doing fighting the pandemic. He fought in World War II, he had a wonderful military career, and has now just been knighted by the Queen over the summer, which I believe was one of her few public appearances this year, which just goes to prove how important and how wonderful a man he is. And he has written this book describing all of the hardship that he has known in his 100 years, but that throughout it all, things will work out, and thus his mantra, that tomorrow will be a good day. My next book is The Victorians by A.N. Wilson, which lost its dust jacket at a library book sale, but the book itself is in excellent condition, and this is quite simply a history of the Victorian period. A.N. Wilson is one of the foremost Victorian scholars, and I hope to read this at some point. Next is a biography of Charles Dickens by Michael Slater. Don't think I need to say much more on that. It's a biography of Dickens. The next monstrously huge book is Victoria the Queen by Julia Baird, which is quite a well thought of biography of Queen Victoria. However, it is massive. I feel better prepared to read this now, however, after having read Lucy Worsley's biography of Queen Victoria last year. The next book is The Pleasure of Reading, 43 Writers on the Discovery of Reading and the Books that Inspired Them, which was edited by Antonia Fraser, who is a historian that I love. It also has pieces from writers like Margaret Atwood, Germaine Greer, Tom Stoppard, Camilla Shamsi, Melvin Bragg, J.G. Ballard, Doris Lessing, Carol Ann Duffy, and I found this on a bargain book website, and it just sounded delightful, but I haven't gotten around to reading it yet. The next is Apollo's Angels, A History of Ballet by Jennifer Homans, which is very highly acclaimed. I was a dancer for many, many years. I did ballet up until the age of 10, and I was an Irish dancer for a very long time. I continued taking lessons until I graduated from high school at 17, and then I taught and performed with the dance ensemble group at my university for the next 4 years as well. So I'm very interested to learn more about the world of ballet and see how it developed over the centuries, because I love historical dance. Next I have Courtesans, Money, Sex, and Fame in the 19th Century by Katie Hickman, which just sounded amazing. It's a book about essentially Victorian prostitutes, but in the best possible way from the sounds of it. Not quite Hallie Rubenhold's The Five, but since I loved that one, I would be very interested to read this as well. The next is Londonopolis by Martin Latham, which is a curious history of London. This was on sale at Barnes & Noble 2 years ago, I believe. And it's just a book about strange and odd things that you can find in London. And it sounds amazing. I'm desperate to read it, but I don't dare read it right now because I will want to go back, and I can't travel right now, and it will just make me very sad. So I'm putting this on hold for the moment. Next, I have Perdita, The Literary, Theatrical, and Scandalous Life of Mary Robinson by Paula Byrne. Paula Byrne is one of my favorite Jane Austen scholars, and this is a biography of Mary Robinson, who was a very famous actress in the late 18th and early 19th centuries. So I can't wait to hear more about her from Paula Byrne. Oh, I take it back. She was not just an actress. I've just read the back. She is described here as darling of the London stage, mistress to the most powerful men in England, feminist thinker, and best-selling author. Now I really need to read this. The next book I have is Hamlet, Globe to Globe by Dominic Drumgoole, which is the story of how, I believe in 2014 or 2015, I don't remember exactly when, but it was to commemorate the 450th anniversary of Shakespeare's birth. The Globe Theatre tried to share Hamlet with the entire world, and they had companies touring every country on Earth over the course of that year. And this is Dominic Drumgoole, who was the director of the Globe Theatre at the time, charting that journey and the effect that the play had in all of the countries that it visited and what the actors experienced in performing it as well. It sounds so brilliant. I'm really looking forward to this. And last in that pile is The Courtiers by Lucy Worsley, which is her history of the Georgians, all the way from the beginning to the end of the 18th century. I love almost anything that Lucy Worsley does, so I'm very much looking forward to this. Next, I have More Fool Me by Stephen Fry, which is part 2 of his memoir series, I believe. So this picks up when he is 30 years old and carries on from there. I found this on a bargain book website and had to pick it up right then and there, but I've been putting it off because I have not yet read the first book. I'm trying to track that down right now. And by the way, the first book is called The Fry Chronicles. Next is Jane Austen's England by Roy and Leslie Adkins. This comes highly recommended by Marissa at Blatantly Bookish, which I will link her channel down below because she is quite lovely. I was hoping to read this a few months ago and didn't get to it. It is quite simply just a history of Georgian and Regency daily life. And I'm still desperate to read it, but now I'm thinking I might save it until Jane Austen July. Next, at a library book sale, I found a biography of Samuel Johnson by David Noakes. Samuel Johnson, if you're not aware, composed the first English language dictionary, and apparently he led a fascinating life as well, so I'm desperate to hear about it. Next is The Bookshop Book by Jen Campbell, which my parents got me for Christmas. Jen Campbell is a wonderful author and booktuber. I will link her channel down below. And this book is her musing about the importance and the magic of bookstores, as well as different and sometimes odd and interesting bookshops from around the world. I am very excited to read it, but now that I can't go to many bookshops, I'm afraid that it will make me very sad and nostalgic. So I'm also putting this one on hold for the moment. Next, I have Cavalier, also by Lucy Worsley, the story of, and I quote, 17th century playboy William Cavendish, and charting his life as a cavalier in the court of King Charles I and everything that that entailed, as well as what happened to him once Charles I had been executed and this way of life was practically made extinct. Next, I have The Queen's Bed by Anna Whitelock, which is an exploration of Elizabeth I and everything that happened under her reign through the lens of her bedroom and how integral that was to the running of the kingdom. It sounds absolutely fascinating. I stumbled across it in the Strand many years ago now, and just haven't gotten around to it. Next is the Horologican by Mark Forsyth. This is the sequel to the Etymologicon. So this covers strange and weird words that you may or may not encounter throughout the course of your day. It sounds interesting. I've heard mixed things about it. I've heard that the Etymologicon might be better, so I've just been putting it off for a while, but if you recommend it, I will come back to it. Next I have Aristocrats by Stella Tilliard. I have seen the series that was made from this book, but I have not yet read the actual book. This is the biography of 4 sisters in the Georgian period, and the different tacks that their lives take based on the decisions that they make early on. Yes, these are the 4 Lennox sisters: Caroline, Emily, Louisa, and Sarah. Also at a library book sale, I found a biography of George IV, who was of course the Prince Regent when Jane Austen was writing, and he seems like a very intriguing person, so I would love to get to this. Oh, sorry, it's by Stephen Parisian. Next, I have Soul of the Age by Jonathan Bate, which is a biography of William Shakespeare based on the very little that we have to go on. And Jonathan Bate is one of the foremost Shakespearean scholars. And actually, he happens to be married to Paula Byrne, which I just find so cool, because I love both of them as scholars. And finally, a book that I picked up in the bargain section of Barnes & Noble, Princesses Behaving Badly by Linda Rodriguez McRobbie, which is exactly what it says on the tin. It's the story of various princesses and other nobility who did not do as they were expected to do. I then have a few more books that would not fit in the bin. The first is El Mundo de los Toros, or The World of Bullfighting, which dates back to 1974, before all of the animal rights movements began about bullfighting, which are still going on in Spain to this day. It is a very hot topic. This was a library discard that my mother brought home from the library thinking it might be useful for me in my Spanish classroom. Given that bullfighting is such a hot topic, I don't think that's a good idea to go through with middle schoolers just yet, but I saved it because I don't know that much about the ideas behind bullfighting and why it was such a big deal. That, and it's got quite a lot of excellent photos. Plus it was written under Franco. Franco was not dead yet, so I'm fascinated to see what they have to say for themselves. 2 other library discards that she brought home for me were Molto Agitato, The Mayhem Behind the Music at the Metropolitan Opera, which part of me is very excited to read, and the other part of me is quite scared to read it because I'm afraid it will color my enjoyment of going to the Met if I find out that there are terrible people involved. But yeah, it's just a history of the Met and all of the goings-on behind the scenes that you don't necessarily know about. Similarly, she also brought home Covent Garden, The Untold Story, which details the rise of the Royal Opera House in the post-war era. She also brought home Shakespeare's Songbook by Ross W. Duffin, which is exactly what it sounds like. It takes all of the songs that are referenced in any of Shakespeare's plays and gives you a brief history as well as the sheet music to any of the versions that are used. So for example, here is Hold Thy Peace, which is featured in Twelfth Night. And we have a little history here about the first version and the second version. And funnily enough, having just looked at the sheet music, this is indeed the version that is sung if you see the Twelfth Night production from the Globe Theatre starring Mark Rylance and Stephen Fry. This is the version they use. Hold thy peace, I pray thee, hold thy peace, thou knave. Hold thy peace, thou knave, thou knave. And it would go in a round, which is so cool. I also found at the Strand The Best of Miranda by Miranda Hart. This is a book all about the making of the sitcom Miranda and features the scripts of some of Miranda's favorite episodes along with stories from cast members and recipes It just looks like such fun, as they say, and I'm desperate to read it, but I want to watch the show first. And it is available on Hulu here in the States. That is the only way that we can watch it. But here's the thing. Anytime I go to try and watch Miranda, I think, yes, I've got a good break coming up. I can get really cozy and laugh and have fun with Miranda. I get sick. There's something in the universe that does not want me to watch Miranda. So stay tuned to see if that continues. And finally, another book that I did not get to in Victober is Charles Dickens at Home by Hilary McCaskill. This is a book my uncle found in my local indie bookshop to give me for Christmas, and it chronicles all of the places that Charles Dickens lived throughout his life with lovely, well, that's a lovely illustration of his older sister, but there are also photos of the places in which he lived, which is more the focus. So I have my work cut out for me throughout the years. Let me know down below some of your favorite nonfiction books, or if you are also intrigued by any of these books, and we can maybe read them together or compare notes at some point at least. And until next time, be safe, be well, and happy reading. Bye everyone. Now I've got to fit all these back in the bin.